the fruits of the Spirit. These represent the tangible outcomes of living in alignment with divine principles. These fruits are not merely abstract virtues, but are living expressions of the spiritual growth and maturity. They include qualities such as love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, and self-control, which manifest as individuals increasingly align their will with the divine will. So what are these fruits of the Spirit, and what can you explain? I mean, if you can do such a good job as you did on the mind spirits, I want to see what these fruits taste like.
Okay, so the first things first is I want us to jump into the etymology of the word fruit. So the word fruit is very, very, very interesting when you actually look at the word and the root and actually what it means.
Okay.
Fruit is very linked in its definition to actual it's Latin frui or fruis,
Mm-hmm.
which was basically like the reward.
The
You understand?
reward.
The
Okay.
result of the result of. You understand? So
The
basically,
consequence of.
yeah, yeah, so for example, it's just like Jesus spoke, a good tree brings forth good fruit, and a bad tree brings forth bad fruit. So out of the abundance of a man's heart, a man speaks. It's not what comes into a man that defiles a man, but it's what comes out of a man. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
So now fruits of the spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, faithfulness, and self-control. These are things that you and I, all of us, we possess this, and we can manifest these things. They're basically the evidence of divine alignment. Look
Okay.
at it in our example. Look at it as the signs of a system running clean code.
Okay.
So the signs of a system running clean code. It would be look at them as they're the output metrics of a low entropy consciousness. When the data stream is clear, these virtues flow effortlessly. You know,
Okay.
and when you actually look at the fruit of the spirit, these things are not just for you; they actually benefit those around you
Exactly.
because you're not.
You're- It's like you're the tree and you're bearing these fruits for people to enjoy and eat out of.
There you go. There you go. You're the new Garden of Eden, baby. but
Yes.
the but the fruit is not forbidden.
Exactly. Awesome.
you
Awesome. So
know,
you were saying.
yes. So with this analogy, think of your inner life as software, and these, fear and ego introduce bugs. Resentment freezes your system, but forgiveness patches the code. Stillness downloads updates from the source. So when you run on love, you move from lag to flow, from separation to synergy. That
Mm-hmm.
sudden peace in
Mm-hmm.
chaos, that instinct to help a stranger, those are fruits appearing, proof that the divine bandwidth is strong, you know. And love is
If
the
you feel
universe.
them,
Yeah,
you
you can
feel
feel
it.
them.
You feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because when you really look at it, love is the universe's most stable operating state. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
This is, I mean, love, with just love, uh, this world would literally change. You understand? Like if
Definitely.
everybody got on the same frequency of love, it'll change everything. Like literally, it'll change everything because the fruits are not just moral checklist. You understand? They're
Yes.
like system diagnostics. If joy and compassion are flowing, you're aligned with divine consciousness. So these are the results of you. I was speaking with someone once, and I told someone, I said, "Hey, there's a way where you can tell if someone has a real relationship with God." And he's like, "Hey, he thought I was gonna get all philosophical and stuff, and like, oh, okay, what's the Zen behind this?" And it's like it's very, very simple. The way you can know that someone has a real intimate relationship with God is the way that they treat people, not just people that they know, just anybody who they come across.
Definitely.
You
Definitely.
understand?
Yes.
Because
Definitely.
all of these things, and it's very simple, because if you have an intimate relationship with God and you speak to God and you learn in stillness and you're practicing these things and you're actually living these things, these things are bound to happen. These are manifestations. In fact, we're supposed to be overflowing with these things. We're supposed to be literally, hey, anyone who we come in contact, we should be, this is ideally how we're supposed to operate, and all of us can do this. All of us can do this. It all starts right here and right here.
I really like this because I mean, this analogy of fruits, of how first of all, we generate these fruits, like you're saying, the righteous living, being aligned, all these things that we're talking about. Once you start in that path, you start getting these fruits. And the more you go into to this path, and the more fruits you bear, the more, the more you feed your soil, you have sunlight, rain, the better the fruit it is, the richer it's going to be. But what I like is the second part, that the fruit is not for you to eat, it's for you to share, for you to share with your brothers. And this is something that's very interesting because well, you're saying the way that someone treats another person, and not only the people they love, but with compassion, with dignity, which is something that we lose sight in this modern world, with the dignity of knowing that they are children of God and that they
Mhm.
are indwelt by God. And when you recognize that, I mean, there's these fruits that you share. And let me put it this way: maybe they are poor in that they do not have these fruits, but feeding them really feeds their soul and makes a change with them. You can plant a seed in them, and even somebody that's maybe lost, maybe I don't want to say that they're bad, because I don't think they're bad. Maybe they're lost. They can find through tasting these fruits, they can find God, and start their own path. So I really like this, what you're saying.
Yeah, I've got a little question for you. You know, um, I've lived all over the world, but I haven't lived in Spain. But I want to ask you a question. I think it's, well, let me just ask my question. Have you ever seen a banana tree eat a banana, or an apple tree eat an apple?
No,
Have you ever seen a mango tree eat a mango?
no, no.
But yet it produces so many of these fruits.
Yeah,
You understand? And it
yeah.
produces these fruits for people to take, have a bite, and have a great memory and be refreshed and
And
change,
nurtured.
nurtured, and get vitamins, and have a moment or play around. This is the interesting thing about it. And we all possess this, and we all manifest these. And it's just a question of us consistently uh to get out of this thought of like, okay, I'm gonna get in this spiritual and do right mode. That shouldn't be the stuff. And the perfect example was the example of Jesus. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Yeah,
So Jesus lived, he brought the divine into every single thing that he did. You
yeah.
understand? So
He
it
lived
wasn't a question of, he never went to God in a religious sense, but it was a continual fellowship. You understand?
a communion.
Communion, a communion, and that's how it should be with us. And look at how he operated.
No,
He
definitely.
was
And
it was around the taxpayers, you understand,
yeah,
and all,
exactly. He went
all these
against that. And this is what's so interesting, and I really like that you brought Jesus up, because I mean that's our reference, our model. I see that in the compassion, and we were just talking about this in a previous podcast. The dignity, what we were just saying, that he saw in every human being. Be it a leper, be it anybody. I mean, he wasn't distant, and what I really liked about it, and you were mentioning about the mind spirits, he took action. He wasn't really just about the law, which that's what
Mhm.
the other guys were all about,
Yeah,
but he was
yeah,
about action. He was about compassion. He was about giving these fruits and feeding the hungry with these fruits.
yeah. So that, I mean, that is our perfect example. If we can follow the religion of Jesus, if we can live the life of Jesus, his example, because he set an example not for just us, but he set the example for beyond, for humans and superhumans and everyone, with the way the most beautiful display. of the human in conjunction with the divine every single day. I mean, he was a guy who, who lost his dad, you know, you know, you, he lost his dad, and not only did he lose his dad, he went through so many things that a lot of people, all they need to do is just read. So his father, fell and got injured working on the house for the basically the governor, right?
Yeah,
And he had it in his mind. Remember, his little sister was still in the stomach of his mother. You
yeah,
understand? And
yeah.
so he had it in his mind, okay, maybe I can get some of this money from this settlement, and I can buy a farm, and my siblings can play around and have this, and just same normal things that we go through. And
Exactly. Mundane things that we all live through, that we can all
he,
relate to.
yeah, he had hopes, he had desires, and when he went before and he went before Herod, and they denied him, he had to work. When you read on, it talks about the long hours, about how long he toiled and toiled and toiled and toiled, and he wasn't really bringing a lot of money, but he had to go through it because he had to provide and he had to learn. You understand? He had to learn, but it also tells us that with time, because of the quality of what he was able to produce, people sought him out, and it fulfills the scripture. A man's gift will make way for him and bring him before kings.
Well, this. I just love this what you just told us about this incident, this story about Jesus, because we know a lot of the other stories, which are
Mhm.
very
Yeah,
interesting, but this one brings the human Jesus. This one shows the human Jesus and helps us relate to those struggles. I mean, I'm a provider. Anybody that has that duty. It's a sacred duty, and many times it's complicated, and the world that we live in is not maybe fosters that in such a way, and you're faced with having to provide, and that is a big responsibility, and Jesus had it, so we can see his experience, and we can relate to that, and we can see how we can transcend it from that,
yeah,
and all the good, the knowledge, the worship, the love that he gave us,
yeah.
in spite of all the things that he had to go through.
And everything he displayed in his personal life. So when you look at those that he chose, um, I mean, there were those that he chose. Someone like Thomas had such a scientific mind. Like Thomas could not be fooled. You understand? Could not be fooled. You
That's
understand?
why he was the one that didn't that had
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You know what I mean? So he represents that highly intellectual mind. And then you had, like Matthew, and who was,
The
you know,
twins.
yeah, and the twins, and then you had other people who, um, there were of his disciples those that today would be considered of average or slightly below, maybe if they were around today, that some people might think they would be on the spectrum, but they were part of his disciples, and they were used in a wonderful way. So they used them for crowd control as ushers at these events, and people who had this image of this holy man, this guy, and then they saw his disciples as just like them. What do you think it did to them? It ministered to their mind. You understand?
I like what you're saying about how it wasn't that each one had a role, each one was unique, and each one contributed. And you were saying that Jesus' communion and personal relationship with God fell down into his apostles and disciples, and that's what I think the crowds really got impressed from, not only from him talking and giving us all these teachings, but really seeing the effect of these fruits
Yeah,
on his disciples and anybody that would come near him.
yeah, yeah.
That's really interesting.
So, I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So now that we know that we can be a fruitful tree, that we can feed our brothers, what are the recommendations in your opinion, or how can we step by step, little by little, become more fruitful, let's say, in our lives?
Okay. The first thing that we can do is we can stop giving excuses.
Like that.
You know,
Ourselves are it's starting with ourselves, I think.
yeah,
If when we
yeah,
when we excuse ourselves and when we yeah, totally
yeah.
get it.
So that's the first thing. So the first thing, it starts with you. So you can't help nobody if you don't help yourself. You understand? First things first. No excuses, and then you've got to spend the time. You've got to spend the time to build your mind, right? You've got to study.
You have to
Uh,
put the work.
you've got to put the work in. And then aside from studying, you've got to spend time in communion. You understand?
Uh-huh.
You've got to spend time in real prayer. Not, God, I need $1 million. God, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. No. You need to prayerfully connect with God, appreciate Him, His nature, His character. And then you need to spend some time, in stillness, where that still small voice can whisper, where you can calm down your mind. There's a little exercise I like to tell people to do. It took me quite a while to do that. And it was, I worked on quieting my mind for 60 seconds for 1 minute. And it doesn't seem like it's really, really like, oh, it's really easy to do. But to quiet your mind, where your mind is silent, no thoughts, just quiet for 60 seconds, it took me quite a while to actually do that because things are popping up in my mind and all types of things and stuff. But day after day, I tried and I tried and I tried and tried. And then when I was actually able to actually achieve that, it actually helped me so profoundly. You understand?
Okay.
Because
Okay.
it allowed me to understand that I am the master of my ship,
Yes.
that I control the arena of the battlefield, my mind. You understand? That
Yeah.
I could actually, I have control over these things, and that you're not gonna
And you
find
gained
that.
it. I think
Yeah,
you gained it. You
yeah,
at first you couldn't do it, but you gained it through practice and through
yes,
hard
through
work.
practice. Yeah, through
Yes.
practice. And that was really not the goal. Like if I honestly like wrote down exactly what I was just trying to like be silent, you understand? But I learned so many things because sometimes I try and I stop and this, and sometimes I thought I had it and this, and I had to deal with my ego. I had to deal with, certain things. And then I learned so many things about myself. At first I beat myself up. I'm trying to have a spiritual moment and you're popping up and this is popping up. And then I kind of looked at my thoughts a little bit differently. And I'd be able, when something pops up, maybe
You
this
let it
pops
go.
up, I tell it, no, I started to talk to them. That's actually how
Okay.
I did it. So I'll be like, okay, great. You know, I know this is something that you want to experience. We're going to experience that, but not right now. Right now, you need to just give me some time and just be quiet. And that's kind of how I did it. That's kind of how I did it. And with time, I was able to, I don't know, the circuits of my mind got wired in a way, and I got,
Yeah.
basically got into, I didn't become a possessor of mind. I became, a controller of mind, a master of my mind. You understand?
Awesome. I like that.
So you can do that. You can do that. You can spend some time and then, um, start immediately.
Don't
Like
start tomorrow, start today.
start right now. So
Yeah.
anything that you want to do, start right now. You understand? You want to change, you want to get better. Okay, great. I want to change, I want to get better. Close your eyes, clear your mind, have that intention. You understand? And ask that still small voice. This is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. I need some help. Can you show me how I can navigate this? And while I'm going through this journey, could you teach me other things? Could you help me with my mind and control my mind and lead me? And with time, it just gets better and better and better and
Yeah.
better. But you just start today. Instead of
Yeah.
procrastinating, start with something small, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally, totally. I really like this, and I like what you say that you're in control of your mind, of your life, and this is. I mean, we're talking about Jesus, and we see how he, from a, a situation that maybe might have spun him out of control, he controlled it, and he evolved it, and eventually did what Well, we know he did. So this
So many difficult, like very, very high level things. Now, just imagine this coming into terms with your divinity, right? Meanwhile, you're born into a social, political, and cultural situation where your land has been conquered. There's an invading force that is administrating, and most people are thinking the Messiah is going to come as a military guy and fight and this and you're coming into terms with your divinity and the religious the Pharisees and the Sadducees have their version of the Messiah. The guy fighting for freedom has his, and you have to basically come to terms with what Messiah you're going to be. And then you still have a family that you're
you
basically
cannot
raising
neglect.
that you cannot neglect. You've got a ministry, you're building, you've got all these things that you've got going on. So this was it was a great orchestration of the circuits of the mind and applying it in everyday life in such a beautiful and wonderful way.
On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.